you got a new look here.
What? Welcome back to Inside the Message.
With
Kitty.
our new guest, Isabel, is going to be joining us today.
I don't think so.
I think she should. I think she has a lot to say. In fact,
Well, what she has to
the recordings, she I don't know.
what she has to share may be, more important than what I have to share. All right.
All right.
We're back.
We're back.
All right, at least I'm back.
I was always here.
Okay.
That was an awesome message, Tony. Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
There were so many teaching moments in there.
Yeah, there was a lot in there, and that was one of my concerns, is that it was pretty dense, and I don't want to confuse people. So.
Well, can I share with you what I heard?
Please, yeah.
I heard a definition of miracle. The miracle, according to A Course in Miracles, is a sudden shift in perception. So that was a teaching that I heard. I also heard the distinction between magic and miracle. And we can talk a little bit more about that. And then I heard where I thought we were going to be going, which is where you did go, which was that all events are neutral. So we've kind of had the true thought principles of we are as God created us to be. That is changeless and eternal, and that we are spirit and unlimited and free, and that thoughts are things. That was one that I did the week before, that thoughts are things, that they're creative and there are no idle thoughts. And then from there, we go into another cornerstone true thought principle, that all events are neutral. And I think that that one is particularly challenging when there are challenging events in the world. So those are the three main things that I heard in your message. But more importantly, what I felt was a feeling tone, particularly towards the end. And you said something about home and heaven. And I thought that that was particularly meaningful because I really felt that. So do you want to share about any of that?
Yeah, it's, we keep thinking that we're doing better, in our society, our mutually agreed upon definitions, we keep focusing on the things in the past, and we want to correct those things and make them better, and that seems to be important to us. But what I didn't say, but wanted to, but didn't want to run too long, is that, not much has changed. We can go back 2,000 years ago, and everything's pretty much the same. We've got tools. We've got the internet, and we've got we can stream to you, and we can take advantage of the technology, absolutely. But what are we really dealing with? What we're really dealing with is, if you'll allow me to say it this way, is sin and sickness and death. Mm-hmm. How much longer do we want to experience this? And the other thing I didn't really mention, and since you're brave enough to join us here on Inside the Message, and thank you for doing so, is, we have a choice, but we don't just have, there's a lot of people, I think predominantly believe, it's like one and done, and you're over, right? Not really. I mean, if it's a game of separation, and it doesn't end when we lay this body down, we come right back into it. Because we don't ascend after death. We can only ascend in life. This is life. And this is the game. We've entered into the game. And I've used the analogy of the movie Jumanji in the past.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so they have so many lives, and they just keep popping right back into the game. And until they solve the riddle, until they come to the end of it, they can't really escape the game. And that's a great metaphor for where we are. This isn't, if you have been reincarnating for hundreds of years going through all of the same old stuff, sin and sickness and death, sin and sickness and death. That is our experience, but none of it's real, none of it is our reality, but we've made this commitment to solve the riddles and escape the game and help our brothers and sisters that have joined us in the game. We all have to wake up at once. We all have to come out of this together. I think it's high time to get on with it. I mean, literally, and that's why I think Jesus is really helping us now, and others are too, not just Jesus, of course. There's other wonderful work that's being communicated to us, but wow, just getting the basic principles down begins to change the way that we've concretized our life around this third dimensional world.
Right, right. And what I call that is coagulated thought forms. And so if the world that we have made is based upon untruth, thoughts that really aren't true, then we have extended or created or made illusion. And so the good news then becomes that it's merely masking or veiling or covering up what you were talking about, because you are saying that heaven or ascension and rising above these circumstances and conditions of the world, that it is necessary that we do that in this lived experience. And for me, that was a really big shift in consciousness, because we always want to we always assume that it's after the death or after we lay this body down that this happens. And if we're good, we go to heaven, and if we're not, we go to a hell. I mean, this is really old stuff, but it's still part of our culture. The sin aspect is that we're guilty and that we are must be punished and suffer. The sickness aspect is kind of self-evident, that we're a body that gets sick and dies. And again, there's suffering connected with that. And then, of course, death, and the concept and the idea of death. And then only salvation or only heaven occurs after death. And to me, that just completely shifted things. The idea of ascending, the idea of awakening in the lived experience made a huge difference for my understanding, because then it really placed the responsibility for this shift in consciousness to be bold. Like, now is the time to know that it can be accomplished now, and to take responsibility for aligning myself in truth so that that can be the experience, and that it's not up to somebody or something else. It's not something that is delayed. And I mean, don't most of us like instant gratification anyway? And so in a way, isn't that great that we can have that experience, and that, and to me, it doesn't really matter whether you believe in reincarnation or not, like what you're saying. If you go back in history, the things that we think are so unique that we're experiencing right now, I mean, really, we're on the hamster wheel. It's not as if these things are new. They may seem new in our experience of this life, but through human evolution, this has happened before again and again and again. And there are those who pierce the veil within the lived experience. And we have those stories, those awakening stories, enlightenment stories, and ascension stories. Those stories exist because they are in our consciousness. So you wanted to jump in, I could tell at one point. Which point was it?
Well, yeah, lots of things are going through my mind, but I think it just boils down to true thought. If because we've had so many iterations of manipulation of truth that by and large we don't know what to believe. And you may have found yourself, I don't know what to believe. What pathway should I follow? And here you are in this community, this spiritual community now, birthed not so long ago, that our intention is to distill all of these voices of wisdom, and they are many, and they have come over millennium, right? But the ones that are true thought, it's consistent from all of the masters over time. In fact, way back in history, it was only taught in the mystery schools because it was so bizarre that people couldn't accept it. And so disciples would come into these mystery schools and they would study for months and months and months and months and years before the masters would eventually tell them these secrets, right? And one of the secrets that I learned that Jesus told Peter was, he said, this isn't really, this is a dream, That's when Peter drew his sword, he said, I can't be persecuted. I can't be killed. I can't be destroyed. He'd already awoken to the reality of who and what he was. And he was being in service to us and to his disciples in particular to help them to get beyond this idea of this narrative that God put us here and that we're victims of this consciousness or that we're victims of this world. And we're not. It's a choice that we've made, and we keep making it again and again and again. Yes, you made a choice to be here. You chose your parents. I mean, when we start really unpacking it and looking a little deeper, and again, we're just early in our ministry here, and we don't want to scare people away, but at the same time, we don't have time. Time is of the essence to me, right? That I'm not willing to suffer a lot of bullshit anymore.
Right.
I mean, let's get to the truth and then let the truth be how we live our lives. And because when we do that, we become higher. We do ascend in consciousness, and then we begin to be informed by this higher voice of love. And it's phenomenal. It's an unimaginable experience, and it can't even be described, but it can absolutely be known. It can't be understood, but it can absolutely be known. And so I'm kind of, maybe pushing the pedal to the metal, and I don't want to be too aggressive.
You.
Yeah, not me.
Not you. Not this guy. But let's just take a nugget. Let's just take one thing. All events are neutral. If you're saying that this is the next true thought, principle, this one's a little bit more challenging because this one, I believe, is we get the calling card. Well, then. That we're callous, we're not compassionate. How can we say that what we're experiencing in our lives right now, whether it is, the death of a loved one, whether it is the threat of sickness or actual sickness of our own body and experience, or whether, and I'll say this, in my case, I lost my job in the middle of this pandemic, towards the beginning of it, at a time when millions of other people were losing their jobs. And so for me, then practicing, this is a neutral event. And truly how it all came down did not feel neutral at all. And it doesn't feel neutral when suddenly my income that I was accustomed to and quite frankly attached to, went away.
We all are.
And so, and I can't say that when I do tap that, I can't say that I don't. When I tap into, the news and what I hear about the economy and about others in the similar situation as me, I can't deny that it doesn't touch off of fear. Now, what I can say is the event in and of itself is neutral. The event is neutral. How I perceive it, how I look at it, how I regard it is anything but neutral. And so that's where the shift occurs, is that I can claim it as being for me and not against me. I can, but even that's not really neutral, right?
That's right.
So that's where our positive thinking, is a slippery slope as well.
But see, that's the prison we put ourselves in,
Right.
And that's the miracle that's happening right now. When we get shaken loose of the things that we depended on and we thought that was kept us safe, it kept us secure, right? And it kept us sane, right, or whatever. The point is that when those things are taken away, then we're willing to look at things in a new way. Up until then, the radical ideas that we're talking about now here at True Thought, a lot of people, they're just not, things are working. We get stuck in it. This rut, this rut is the word I'm looking for. And we're stuck in this rut, and we don't want to come out because we feel safe and secure here, right? We have security, we have safety, we have money coming in, whatever. I don't want to change anything because I think I'm okay here. We're not okay. This isn't happiness because we're still dealing with sin and sickness and death. And those are things that we don't have to deal with. Ultimately, we don't have to deal with any of that. So this isn't really a happy life here. And I'm sorry, we work so hard to try to make it a happy life, but you really can't because the motto, the foundation, more appropriately, of the ego construct is that seek but do not find. And we were sharing this in a conversation with some folks the other night. And it's not a new concept, but it's absolutely radical to a lot of people. But the truth is we are not building a happy life here. But we can when we join in union relationship with Spirit and shift.
Absolutely.
And the only way to get there, the only way to really do that, fortunately, unfortunately, it's a neutral event. You're giving everything all the meaning that it has. The only way to get there, truly, is to ascend to a higher consciousness.
Right. And so part of the title of True Thought, the tagline has been, no thought required. No thought of our own required.
That's right.
And so this is truly what I would call a first century Christianity, what I would call an enlightened teaching, where we're really going back to that consciousness of oneness moment by moment in every instant. And to know in that joining that it is the will of Creator, of God, of Spirit, that we are happy. It's just not contingent upon what we thought it would be.
Or what the ego thought it would be.
What the ego thought it would be. And so, so we will be uncomfortable as we release the constructs, as we release the conditions that we believed were necessary. And as we begin to put that goal of that conscious oneness and union, going from two-ness to oneness, as we put that as our priority, and it's counterintuitive now in the world. Counter thinking. I won't say counterintuitive, but it's counter to the thinking
of the world.
Prevailing thinking of the world.
Absolutely.
And so that's why these kinds of meetings are so important, and why sharing these type of messages and joining these kinds of conversation are so important, because what we know is that as we focus on oneness, as we focus on love, as we focus on aligning in true thought principles, that we begin to shift our perception, and then what we see in the world changes.
It changes. We become the alchemists. I mean, we really do. We change the world. We have the opportunity here and now to change the world, so that it begins to reflect the truth of what it is, the kingdom of heaven.
And so this is really good news. It's really joyful
it is.
And happy.
Yeah.
And who doesn't want to be done with sin?
Yeah. Sickness
I know I do. Sickness, of course.
And death.
And death.
Absolutely.
And so, this is about joyfulness, about love, about connection, and about oneness.
Absolutely.
So,
I want to be clear to say that this isn't about denigrating anybody's spiritual journey, whatever it may be, whether it's Christianity or Islam, or it doesn't matter. You have free will. Everybody has free will. They can do whatever they want to do. And that's the cool thing about spirit. There's no judgment in spirit, right? And so you can spend another 100 lifetimes. No judgment. But you don't have to.
And we can awaken through any of these pathways.
Any of these pathways, all these pathways are valid, every one of them. That's right.
But the adherence to what is true doesn't matter which pathway you're on. There's not my truth and your truth. There's only the truth.
Right.
And it's true always. And that's why these principles are count-onable. That's why we can rely on them. That's why if we get 1 or 2 or 3 of them, it's like everything begins to shift and change.
It does.
And,
Right.
and we apply them then in all aspects of our life, so without exception.
Without exception.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so
How you
much
feeling?
I feel great. I
Do
mean,
ya?
yeah.
Good.
I'm happy. I'm joyful, and
Good.
I feel full of spirit, and it's a great place to be.
Well, thanks for bringing it on. Thanks for sharing it with us in the unique way that you do. Thank you for joining
Oh
us.
yeah. Thank
We're
you for
so
joining.
very grateful. Have a beautiful day, and we'll see you very soon.
We
right?
will indeed.
All right.
God bless.
Namaste.
Namaste. Bye-bye.